When I reach 1000 subscribers I will be giving away a $25 Amazon gift card away. To enter, like, subscribe and leave a comment below. Posted by u/Steve_Thepink_Unicorn. My rapist goes to jail. Trigger warning. So for just general warning, this is super triggering. I would prefer if you didn't comment, please. Not sure where else to put this, but the absolute entitled bullshit that happens after was astonishing. So this happened a while ago, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. Again, trigger warning. Last chance to bail. It was a few nights before homecoming and we were having the homecoming bonfire/spirit rally. Being that I was hyped out on hormones and energy, I hit it off with this guy, who I thought was pretty cute. We vibe out pretty well. I go get a drink with him at the convenience store that's literally right next to the school. We laugh and talk for a while before we start kissing. It was sweet and gentle at first. We are pretty far from prying eyes and no one can see us less they're right there. He, being a football/sports jock, was much bigger and stronger than my 180 pounds of squishy nerdy self. He pushed me to the ground and, well, you can guess the rest. Why didn't I fight? I did at first, but it only seemed to make it worse. So I laid there waiting for it to be over. What were you wearing? Smiley face leggings, shorts and my class shirt. Why didn't you see the red flags? I didn't see them till last minute. By then I couldn't fiscally fight back when he had me pinned. You wanna know what happened after? I went to a counselor at my school and cried for 2 fucking hours. You know what that counselor said to me? He's a straight A student, captain of sport team and blah blah blah. He wouldn't hurt a fly. I got called a bitch and slut by even my peers. To the point I ditched class when I passed him in the hallways. Then to add to the horror, my abusive father started showing up at my school. I tried to, like an idiot, tell him what happened. You deserve it for being such a bitch like your mother. Then he walked away after that. Here's what I heard from people around me closest to me. I didn't think you were that type. My blonde friend I sat with in German class. Hey, why don't you fuck me, baby, since you give it up so easy. Guy in math class I sat next to often and talked with a lot. Ed, fuck you, but you're not pure anymore. Religious guy I knew was gay. You're lying, my brother. What hurt worse was my mother's blatant denial to my face, and my best friend watching me skip class to go smoke weed or grab Percocet to just cope with what was going on around me. I literally couldn't go to class for a month without being just gone enough to stay functional. It tore my school apart, and yet I was blamed for everything. But here's what I found out. He went to jail on the raping of 4 girls, age 14. He's in jail for the next 30 years. I know exactly what jail. Do I hate him? Yes. Do I know any other of the girls? I plead the 5th in defense of their privacy. I can't tell a poo the anxiety attacks and fallout that caused me on top of a father who was actively trying to kidnap me from school after leaving him via CPS. To side story, he was super abusive growing up that I wanted to die already. Physically, emotionally, and mentally. He literally took a wooden paddle he cut from 2x4 and beat my ass till I was literally black and blue from bruises. He actually broke my hip. He doesn't remember any of the abuse. Not to mention my parents having a nasty custody battle, divorce etc. Anyways, TBH, I literally couldn't function in a normal classroom setting. But I'm so happy to hear that my rapist is in jail, going on 30 to life for being a serial rapist. Happy story ending. I have a loving boyfriend of 2 years, a therapy cat, and I live on my own. TLDR, story about rapist. Rapist goes to jail. Happy ending. Posted by u/Sweet Southern Briz. It's unprofessional to speak. When I was student teaching, I ran into one of the most hateful, entitled women I've ever met. It was quite an experience, so I thought I would share the story. It is quite long. It was my final year of college, and I had to do was my student teaching to have my degree in elementary education. I chose an elementary school that was near my father's house, that had a good reputation, but I didn't really know much about the school itself. Because my degree would be primary through 5th, I had to work into classroom at least 2 years apart, under teachers with over 5 years experience. There were other rules, such as I needed to attend any teacher meetings or parent/teacher conferences that I could, so I could get the full experience. We were told we had to truly act like teachers. Since I was going to a work-study college, I also had to work so many hours at the school besides student teaching. The first teacher I was assigned to was a first grade teacher, and she was amazing. She had such control over her class, and her students simply adored her. At first, I observed, but she slowly let me teach the class. Afterwards, she was ready with advice and constructive criticism. I sincerely learned so much from that experience. The next teacher taught 5th grade, but there had been an oversight as she had only been teaching 4 years. She had an aide, however, that was a retired teacher of 30 years, so it was decided I would actually be assigned to her. The aide was affectionately known as the witch among the students and undoubtedly much worse when the teachers weren't around. I didn't know this, and I was just prepared to continue my student teaching. At first, everything seemed normal. I started with observing the class and helping out when I could. I hadn't been in this class long when I ran into the first problem. A parent came in to speak to the teacher, but the witch wouldn't let me stay. She said I had to get to work as I helped with after school for my work study. I tried to explain I was supposed to sit in on conferences when I could, but she told me to leave. Shortly after, there was a similar situation with a meeting. She told me to leave because I wasn't a teacher. I also wasn't given a chance to teach. The most I had been allowed to do was to tutor a few students one-on-one and grade a few tests. Despite this, I was trying to do my best because I knew I was so close to getting my degree. My advisor came down one day to check on me, and she talked privately with the witch. I didn't think much about it initially because I was doing my best. Afterwards, my advisor wanted to speak to me. She met me with a frown and the words, "We have a problem." I was blindsided. She explained that the witch had said I was terribly unprofessional, although she could give no details or specifics about how I was so unprofessional. My advisor said that the witch was the one filling out my paperwork, and if I didn't do something, she was going to fail me. I wouldn't be able to graduate as a teacher. I asked what I could do, and my advisor said that the witch was going to talk to me that later about what I needed to change. Later that day, the witch took me into the library and listed my crimes. She said I was unprofessional because I wanted to act like a teacher when I was just a guest there. My worst offense was that I talked to other teachers. I would joke with them at lunch sometimes, and I had talked to the other 5th grade teacher when we had combined the classes. I was unprofessional because I talked. I was even talking too much and not working hard enough during after school. I thought she was being ridiculous, but I wanted to pass, so I asked what she wanted me to do. She told me that the next day she'd show me what I had to do, but from that point on I wasn't to talk to any of the staff unless I was asked a direct question. The next day she told me that from now on I would go to the gym to get the students and bring them to class, which was usually her job. Remember, she was an aide, but I was not to go into the class with them because I wasn't their teacher. I did that, and afterwards I walked back to her room. She was shopping on her computer, but she didn't want me hanging out in her room. She told me to make myself scarce until 10 o'clock. At that time, I was to bring the first group of students from the class to her room because she was working with them on portfolios. Meanwhile, there was no talking. I went to the library and hid in the corner on a computer until time to take the students to her room. While she worked with them, I was to watch the clock, so I knew when to take them back to their class and get the second group. While she had the second group, I had to watch the clock, so I could go down early for a short lunch. I wasn't allowed to sit with the other teachers. I had to eat quickly, so I could walk around and observe the students while they ate. After lunch, I had to bring another group to her class and then make myself scarce again until it was time to take the students to the bus. Even after school was different. Instead of helping students with their homework, I now just had to clean up after them and prepare snacks, all while not speaking to any adult. It was terrible. I had never felt so out of place, and I wasn't really getting any valuable experience. Slowly the witch did start letting me work with her groups of students, but I had to do so in her abrasive, crude way, and I still had to keep an eye on the clock so I could leave early for my other duties. She would shop on her computer while I worked, and I knew that she was just making me do her job, which is why she didn't want me talking to anyone. It was a lonely experience, and it really began to upset me. One day, I was in the room when I could hear the witch talking to another teacher. He asked if I was okay because I just didn't seem like my usual happy self, and she replied that she didn't know what was wrong with me. I wanted to scream out she knew exactly what was wrong, but I kept my mouth shut. I wanted to pass and become a teacher. One Friday, I had to go to the college for some reason, and I went to see my advisor. I told her about what the witch was doing, but she just shook her head. She told me I had to do what the witch said, or she would fail me. I tried to explain how badly she was doing me, and the snide comments she would even throw in. She once said she could tell I hadn't been fat for long, because I didn't seem comfortable at my weight. Again, my advisor told me to just do as the witch said. Upset, I walked down the hall when I ran into an old professor that was a sweet man. Although he was about to retire, he could tell that I was upset, so he asked me what was wrong. I told him all about the witch. He seemed surprised and asked if I had told my advisor. I said that I had, but she had told me I just had to put up with it. He mumbled to himself, "We'll see about that," and walked off. That's where this rather long story gets a bit of a happy ending. The following Monday I went to school as usual. The library was closed that day because there was going to be a special dinner for the teachers, but the witch had already told me I wasn't allowed to attend. I got the students from the gym and brought them to the room. As I turned to leave, however, the teacher asked me to come in and help. She explained that the witch wasn't at school that day, so I would just have to stay with her instead. This was fine with me, although I still didn't know if I could really talk to her. Instead of just observing, she let me teach a lesson. It was nice. Lunch came, and I hurried down to eat, so I could watch the students. After I had eaten, I was walking around and observing the students when the 5th grade teacher came in and asked what I was doing in there instead of eating next door. I explained I was watching the students. She said that was someone else's job. I said that I didn't think I was supposed to eat the meal because that was just for the teachers. She looked surprised and asked me what I thought I was there. Before I could stop myself, I blurted out, "A guest." She shook her head and took me to the library to eat. The witch returned the next day, but she acted overly nice to me. When I started to return to her duties, I was told that I was to stay in the classroom and actually teach. Suddenly, I was encouraged to talk with and interact with other teachers. From that day on, it was like that, and the rest of the time passed quickly. The witch even gave me a glowing review at the end of it all. I later asked the old professor what he had done. He said, "Me. I didn't do anything," but then he gave me a smile that let me know he was precisely the reason why things suddenly had improved. TLDR, an entitled aide makes me do her duties and not speak to anyone while threatening to fail me from student teaching. Posted by u/made_an_guanju. Entitled Aunt tries to get my friends and I in trouble. Hello everyone. When I first started watching r/videos on YouTube, the most common type that I would see would be from r/entitled parents. Most of the stories I would read and listen to made me think that if I ever encountered an entitled parent, I'd give them a piece of my mind. One weekend I had my 2 friends over for a sleepover at my house and we were going over old memories from when we first met. The 2 of them are sisters. The youngest remembered of this aunt that I think was in her mid-50s who had her niece living with her. We all took turns recalling events from today's story. It happened when I was about 9 or 10 years old, so some of it is a little blurry. Our cast: EA, entitled Aunt YS, younger sister OS, older sister me, your queen. Elet Saggio. It was just like any other day during the summer vacation. The 2 sisters, 2 of my other new friends and I were playing outside like we always would with our MLP dolls and other stuff like sticks, rocks, etc. Sometimes we would even come up with our characters and role play with them, creating our own stories. You get the gist, right? Kids being kids, right? Not. One day while we were all outside playing by the sister's apartment, the EA and her niece come out of their apartment and the EA is carrying a laundry basket. I assumed she was going to wash her laundry at the laundry place right next to the complex's office. As EA and her niece walked past us kids, she noticed us and stopped in her tracks to look at us. I was facing the direction she came from and was the first one to see her coming. I had just finished gathering a ton of sticks, rocks, and grass to make a small hut-like house for the other kids and me to use. I was working on tying the grass around the sticks when she stopping and started fussing at us. I had been in a few other instances with her in the past, so I kinda knew what was going to happen. At first, I thought that she was going to ask if we would let her niece play with us while she washed her laundry. That, of course, did not happen. For more context, the others were playing with sticks and using them as swords and playing with dolls. Here we go. EA, what are you kids doing? Us, we are just playing Ms. EA. EA, well, you aren't allowed to do this. Asterisk MOTIONS with her hand to the section we were playing IN asterisk. EA, I want you all to clean this up before I get back, or I will call the office and tell them what you're doing. I'll tell your parents as well. You do know I work here, right? YS, and why should we do that? You still aren't the boss of us. Me, asterisk STOPS building, and looks at EA, and then back at the others, clearly ANNOYED asterisk. OS, asterisk NOTICES this, and gets an ERVOUS asterisk. EA, I'm not kidding. You kids better have all this cleaned up before I get back, or you are all in so much trouble. Asterisk WALKS away with her niece following behind HER asterisk. Around 5 minutes of silence later, OS, being nervous as HECK asterisk. Guys, I think we should put everything back. Me, you mean all the stuff we got from random places all over the place? OS, me, being fed UP asterisk. You can do what you want, OS, but I'm done with EA's bullshit. She keeps trying to get me in trouble, and I'm sick of it. OS, what if she actually tells the office? Me, asterisk GETTING back to work. She won't. As far as I remember, it was somewhat silent except for the noise of nature and us kids going back to playing. Later on, EA comes back with her niece and her clothes. All she does is scoff at us and walks away mumbling something under her breath. I know this story isn't like all the other stories on here, but it is currently all I can write. I have more on this EA and her niece, but that stuff is for another story or two. Stay tuned. This last story comes from my subreddit r/irishgoofy. Posted by u/Jennabug1997. Pastor tries to ban me from the church choir because I'm unwed mother. Backstory, I had moved out of my parents' house after having an argument about the guy I was with at the time. I loved him like crazy, but my parents hated him. Turns out they had good reason to, but that's a story for another time. Onto the story. After some time, I had moved back in with my parents, and I was pregnant. I decided to go back to church because I wanted to get my life back together after breaking up with my boyfriend. I was a mess psychologically and emotionally. I couldn't get through the day without having a breakdown. We went to church the Sunday after I moved back in, and we were waiting for Sunday school to start. I was holding back tears and went to the bathroom to pull myself together. On my way there, our pastor calls me into his office to talk to me. I go in, wiping away tears and clearing my throat so I can talk. He asks me if I was okay, and I told him the situation, that I was pregnant, out of wedlock, which is apparently a big no-no, and I could be shunned, and had broken up with my boyfriend. I thought the pastor was going to pray with me and offer to help in any way he could. Instead, he puts on his suit jacket and tells me, I do not want to see you up in the choir until you accept Christ. Now keep in mind, this was the pastor who had baptized me a few years ago. I was floored and ran to the bathroom, no longer able to hold back my tears. I locked myself in a stall and broke down. My mother was in there and asked what was wrong. Before I could answer, the pastor called her to his office and told her what he had said to me. My mother was pissed. We left before services began and went home. I told my mom that I didn't want to go back to church ever again if that was how they were going to treat those who had lost their way. My mom was upset and called the deacons to tell them what happened. They were mad and said that it was unacceptable. The pastor stepped down and I returned to the church. But I still don't trust preachers anymore enough to open up to them. Edit. The worst part of all this is when the pastor tried to tell me that my child was not a blessing from God and that I should be ashamed of both myself and my baby. The pastor has since run off any preachers who have shown any interest in being our new pastor and is saying our church allows sinners in the choir and that we turn a blind eye to sin. Our attendance has fallen by half and I can't help but feel like it was my fault. Thank God for the members who have stayed by my side and helped me through my difficult time. I have since given birth to a beautiful baby, and my baby is in fact a true blessing from God. When I reach 1,000 subscribers, I will be giving away a $25 Amazon gift card away. To enter, like, subscribe and leave a comment below.